Hey y'all, welcome to Remote Viewing Investigations with Jessica. I'm your host, Jessica Jones. We'll be peering through the veil to shed light on mysterious cases from all over the world. We invite you to join us on this magnificent journey through space and time to try to unravel these mysteries. Please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, share this out, and subscribe to Texas Front Porch and to my channel, The Cryptid Huntress on YouTube. You can find us on Odyssey Radio and iHeartRadio and can contact us at Texas Front Porch on Facebook or email us at paracryptidencounters@gmail.com and oracleofthesouth@gmail.com. You can reach us through text at 972-559-0988. If you'd like to support us in what we do here, our super chats are open. Thanks and enjoy the show. Hey y'all, welcome into Remote Viewing Investigations with Jessica. I'm your host, Jessica Jones, and I have a really great show for you guys tonight. We have a target. It's a little unusual, okay? It's not a Bigfoot, okay? It's not a dogman. We are going to explore tonight the Kentucky Goblins. All right, back in 1955, a family, actually it was like 3 families, I think, were accosted by a whole bunch of what they described as goblins one night. Now, I remote viewed it, and I'm going to give y'all a little rundown of what this is before I bring up my 2 co-hosts tonight. I have 2 really awesome guys waiting backstage to come up. So let's get to it, all right? On a dark summer night in August of 1955, the Sutton family and their visiting friends had a bizarre encounter with beings that they claimed were goblins from outer space. The Suttons lived in a secluded farmhouse in rural Hopkinsville, Kentucky. Billy Ray Taylor and his family were visiting from out of town. While fetching water from a well on the property, he observed a light in the sky, which he described to his friends and family as a flying saucer with an exhaust all colors of the rainbow. The family dog soon began barking, ran towards the woods, and returned whimpering and hid under the house and did not come back out until the next morning. They saw glowing lights and humanoid figures moving towards them. The men opened fire on the figures, which led to about 4 hours of terrifying and shocking events. The goblins surrounded the house, peering into the door and windows. The men shot at the beings and then held them off with gunfire for hours until they were able to make a dash for their vehicles and rush to the police department for help. The story made the front page of newspapers the next day and has since become one of the most intriguing UFO and cryptid stories in U.S. history. Now, I don't know a whole lot of people that haven't heard of the Kentucky Goblins. All right. And 2 of my illustrious guests here, co-hosts, let's just say co-hosts, they know a little bit about this, and I know they've heard of it. So let's bring up Mr. Tex Wesson of Texas Front Porch. And I have my friend Barry Littleton, paranormal researcher extraordinaire. Hey, guys.
Greetings. How you doing? Greetings,
hey.
Tex. Hi, Jessica. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank y'all for being here, man. Okay, so we got these Kentucky Goblins, and Barry, I know this is one of your favorite stories, and Tex, I'm sure you've heard of it too. So let's talk about it a little bit. Okay, as soon as I brought this up, Barry, you said, "Oh, this is one of my favorites," and you've actually done a good bit of research on this yourself.
Yeah. It's it's one that caught me first as a child. I come across, I think the book was maybe UFOs Explained or Unexplained, but it was a case that was in there and it's pretty documented in there. And I started, what I know is now picking up information off of it. Now I know connected to, just how all of our experience in this whole gamut is connected. So since then, I've always tried to find out why I pick things up from stuff and what I actually sensed in there. And it's cool because you and I can kind of compare the similarities in what we've detected. Although I don't remote view, I do see, and it's really clear. It's cool because sometimes we come up with similar stuff that really, I think, leads to a certain truth. So looking forward to that.
It's like they kind of interconnect. Like I'm remote viewing and you see it from a psychic perspective, which remote viewing is a psychic perspective as well, but just a little different angle on it. So yeah. Now Tex, did you grow up hearing about this story yourself?
Actually, no, it's something I was turned on to not too long ago. And
Yeah, cool.
it's really fascinating because, it just adds to the mystique. And we were talking earlier about the area this took place
Oh
because there's
yeah.
some other stuff that goes on in that area too.
Well,
So,
it's very close to the land between the lakes in
hmm
Kentucky. So Hopkinsville and Kelly is the community. Hopkinsville is the next closest township, I believe, and it's right there in kind of southwestern Kentucky. And I gotta say, it can't be but more than a county or two over is the land between the lakes, where we know from this show that's where the beast of the land between the lakes lives. Okay, so that is an area of high strangeness. And Tex is actually a dog man tonight, everybody. So, by the way, if anyone would like Tex's shirt, Tex has a great shirt. You can find this in the merch store at Texas Front Porch, right,
yes, you
Tex?
can.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Tex has a nice line of merch. Okay, so please go check that out tonight. All right. So yeah. So it is. It's in southwestern Kentucky near the land between the lakes. But this kind of predates. I don't know. I'm not sure how far back the land between the lakes stories go with dogman encounters. I'm not familiar with how far back that goes. Do you guys know?
Uh, Pretty far back, it was happening before that. That famous one in the '80s, and there was. Well, it's like when you remote viewed it, they said that's not the only ones that disappeared. And we heard that from another source also. So those weren't the only attacks.
Yeah.
So they
Oh
were going
yeah.
on for a long time. And supposedly, what's weird about it is one side you got dogman activity, the other side you got Sasquatch activity,
Yeah.
which doesn't surprise me if that's a pretty good border between them. And I don't think that they are cuddle buddies. I can't believe that. I think they tolerate each other, but it's kind of like other apex predators. They may be in the same area, but they're going to avoid a fight because they just can't afford it.
Yeah.
Can't
Barry.
afford to
Now,
spend the energy or the possibility of getting maimed.
yeah, Barry, you've done a lot of research on Dogman and Sasquatch. What are your thoughts on that?
What I've heard, and it's normally different Native American tribes that have said it, that the Sasquatch and the Dogmen tend to avoid each other. I've even heard some stories about Sasquatch actually warn tribal men about the Dogmen coming into the area. So I find that interesting, and I don't know where that begins and ends because, again, you've got these Dogmen type of creatures quoted biblically and other things for a long time
Mm-hmm.
now. And
Uh-oh. He froze up on us.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, Barry, you're frozen. You're frozen. Yeah.
But
I think what was he Yeah.
touching on
Go
what
ahead.
touching on what he was saying, the dogman phenomenon, if you look back through history, it goes, you know, the Egyptians, the Chinese, and a lot of those older cultures, they all have depictions of, dog canine like, almost godlike creatures, you know. And I've got a whole theory on it, but I think I
There
think
he is.
they've been around for a long, long time. But
Yeah.
evidence has come to light.
You're there.
Yeah, you're good, Barry.
You're back.
Evidence has come to light, and I want to ask Barry about this too. Is it possible that instead of dogmen, and this is going to break my heart if that's the case, but I don't think so because we've reviewed it, we've had it remote viewed by you,
Hmm.
and close up encounters like myself. But um, is it possible that some of the dogmen, if not all of them, are actually giant lemurs?
Lemurs.
Lemurs,
I've
because
not
if you
heard that
look at a
before.
giant, well, if you look at a giant lemur, the first picture I saw of a giant lemur, I went, man, that could easily be mistaken for a dog man. They've got the
Hmm.
raccoon-like hands. They don't have a tail. They've got a canine-like face. It's pretty crazy.
I don't know. Have you heard that before, Barry?
You know, the only time I heard the giant lemur connected was the Melbourne Ketchum DNA, and they were saying that it might be giant lemurs is what was connected to Sasquatch, but I hadn't heard that, and that's fascinating. You know, I had found it interesting that a lot of times the dog men, like I was going to say before everything went crazy here, but they're not known to be shapeshifters and like werewolves or shapeshifters. That I find that interesting. There's not really reports of that. That seems to be legitimately their form. And also the amount of accounts that I've heard about them being somewhat impervious to bullets is fascinating to me, as well as the monkey, the monkey that they're the devil monkey.
The devil monkeys
to be like that also.
Yeah.
And then that takes us into what something Tex was mentioning before we came on about giant paw prints, you know, something that was called the Wahila. And the Wahila was supposed to be a giant wolf that was also the spirit of the wolf. And I think there's movies like that 1980 movie, Wolfen, with Albert Finney. And stuff like that's kind of based on that. But it's interesting nonetheless when dealing with the spirits of the forest and things that we really don't understand fully. So
well, speaking of werewolves and things like that, I'm going to have a show with Dennis Carroll on Space Out Radio Sunday night, specifically talking about werewolves and the occult and demonology and all that stuff. So everybody tune into that. Now, speaking of being bulletproof, these guys shot at these little beings that came out of the woods at them. Okay, so let's get back on track. Let's get on to the Kentucky Goblins. All right, not that we went off track, off the rails or anything, but these, so there was one gentleman, Billy Ray Taylor. He went outside and to go fetch some water out of the well, and he said that he saw a flying saucer fly over his head. Flew over, and it had all the colors of the rainbow with an exhaust behind it. And I'm telling you, in my remote viewing data, I actually saw, I was seeing this as I was remote viewing it, a big glowing ball landed in the woods. And he saw it. There was a big glowing light out there. And he ran back in the house and was like, hey, y'all, I just saw something really weird. There was a flying saucer. And they looked outside, and there were 12 to 15, like 2 foot to 4 foot tall goblins walking towards them. They just saw light, what they thought was something glowing in the dark or something glowing. And so, I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys from the get-go with my remote viewing data, I saw a lot of this go down. And yes, it absolutely happened. There were a lot of witnesses to this. I believe there were 5 adults and 7 kids, which if you guys stick with me for a minute, you're going to see that having all those kids there might have had something to do with this. Which I know that sounds kind of crazy, but the kids had something to do with this a little bit. According to my data. So he saw these things walking towards them. It scared them. I think they surrounded the house, and the guys got their guns and started shooting at them. They shot at these things for at least 4 hours from inside the house. Now, we've heard this story before, not this particular story, but stories of people being scared and shooting through the walls of their homes at Bigfoot, right? Like the Ape Canyon attack. I had Fred in Alaska on my show. He did the same with Bigfoots that had surrounded his cabin in Alaska. You have to be pretty scared and threatened to be shooting through walls of the house, especially with children in the room, because that's going to pretty much blow the eardrums out of people. It's not something that you take lightly when you hear things like that. It's pretty serious. Not to mention that dog ran off under the house and was crying and didn't come out till the next morning. There was something there. And right off the bat, you guys, I picked up with my remote viewing data, I picked up that, yes, those things were actually aliens, straight up aliens. And I didn't get just aliens. These are insectoids. Some sort of insectoid. Now, Barry, you are more knowledgeable on alien types. Can you tell me kind of what an insectoid is and what that means?
Yeah, something of, the insectoid species. And we've seen several that have been displayed typically in ufology, especially, is the mantid and the mantis. There's several different types.
Okay.
You know, I myself encountered an insectoid that looked more like a grasshopper physically, or have encountered energy itself, maybe bodies, beings that are non-physical, but they've got a type of insectoid type of vibe to them. So that's something I think when we start getting to speeding up our vibration to a certain level, we can start getting almost insectoid-like references and feelings, things like that. You know, so that's one way to look at it. And it's interesting that you picked up on that, because I felt that these were more amphibious type of beings.
Yeah.
And that they came from a planet that was like containing a lot of marsh. So in some ways they're like marshmen.
Yeah, well, let's pull some pictures up. You know, while we're talking, I can pull some pictures up. These are some artist renditions or renderings of what these people saw, and they do look pretty amphibious from these pictures. Okay, they look like little demons. Okay, if you ask me.
You know something interesting, and I see the accounts I've heard are different. And I tend to listen to the ones that I read in the book initially back in the early 80s and late 70s and early 80s. And that is that the first ones that came up, the first being that came first is they had these suits on. They're described as having on these silver glowing suits. At the first one that came up, I mean, they blasted immediately and it came up with its hands up, which kind of picks up what I picks up is that there's some sort of a distress between maybe that, you know, that they're asking for help, a technical difficulty that caused that ship to crash. Maybe it wasn't just a scouting mission. Maybe it's that went wrong. You know, technical errors can happen no matter how advanced the technology is.
Right. Well, what I was picking up was that the men just immediately started shooting at them. It wasn't like, oh, let's see what these things are. They were like, oh, hell no. Let's just, I don't know what these are.
That's our first reaction as humans, I think, for the most part.
Well, there were a lot of these little beings. There weren't just one or two. There were like 12 of them at least. Okay, that's a lot. And I was picking up that they were glowing in the dark. Okay, glow in the dark, and they were white. Okay, and I know a lot of reports, like some of the newspapers were reporting that they were little green men. I don't believe there was any green man involved. I think they were more white, just like that picture that I just showed. They were glowing white. Yeah.
That's interesting. I'll tell you why that's really interesting to me. So you remember that deal with that, everybody said it was a kid walking in that video, like going like this, and it like glowing with the ears.
That's actually on the intro to my SOR show, and I don't like that clip in my video.
you know, I'll tell you what's interesting about that.
It's fake though.
I saw somebody doing actually an analysis of that Thinker Thunker guy. And, you know, he put it down, and you know that thing is glowing. That thing doing this chicken dance.
I think that was her son.
You know, if you look at what he put down on there, there's almost no way his son wouldn't have been able to have been glowing like that. Even does a comparison, he breaks that down very effectively. It's only on his Patreon channel though. Thinker Thunker.
I'm gonna remote view that.
Why he feels that wasn't just a kid doing the chicken dance like they're trying to make it out to be. And what's interesting, if you look at the form of that thing with the ears, it's not too unlike these goblin things. Technically, just food for thought, nothing else.
I've always looked at that in my intro, and I'm like, man, I wish that video wasn't on there because I don't think that's real.
You know what? I'll send you a link to that. His deal's like only like $1 a month. It's worth looking at. So. Yeah,
I like Thinker Thunker. That's a good channel to watch on YouTube.
Worth mentioning. I believe that those creatures were the caricature for the Gremlins movie. Not when they're still mogwai, but after they get wet or fed after midnight. Yeah, little cute mogwai, but after he gets fed, they turn into those gremlins. So they're quite similar to these creatures that we're discussing now. So I think, you know, how often that is contrived and automatically those are kind of negative caricatures right there. But these beings, I think, walking up to something on this planet with your hands up is normally...
it's like waving the white flag, right?
And then you get blasted. And so I don't know how much what she's heard, but after they shot the first one or two, the others started coming. And I thought that was just fascinating, you know, in terms of
Yes.
you picked up information. So I'll shut up because I want you to keep going on with it.
Yes. Okay. Well, they were being shot at. However, I picked up that they were non-violent entities. These things meant no harm, okay, to these people. It was specifically non-violent. I did a deep mind probe of one of these little guys, okay? I got in his head and I say him, I don't know what they are. I mean, as far as like, it was just a being, okay? And so I said, I was asking like, what do you want? What did you want out of those families? Like, what was your goal? Okay. And they said they were just observing and they were curious. That's all. They had no agenda whatsoever. It was because they were curious and they wanted to observe. Now it did get a little bit more sinister, you guys. Okay. It did because they were eyeballing the children. Okay. So they were looking at the little people as specimens. All right. So there is an absolute reason for the family to have been very worried about these things being there. And they had every right to shoot at them, in my opinion. I mean, if something was coming for my kid, I'd shoot at it too. Okay. But yes, they were just curious. And then they saw, you guys remember there were 7 children there, 5 adults, according to the reports. And so you got to think there's a lot of kids. They were looking at those kids as specimens. Okay. Now use that information as you will. Like, does that mean they're specimens they're going to take back to their galaxy? You know? Or were they just, oh wow, these are cool specimens, you know, look at these things with, you know, hair on their head and you know. I'm not sure.
It would be hard to, it depends on what context, you know.
Yeah.
And with the, you know, language barrier per se, there's no telling what kind of context they were. But you get nonviolent leads me to believe that they were just, like you were saying, these are interesting specimens.
Oh, you know what? Actually, I take all that back because I usually like sit down and like work on this all day before I come on the show. And I've been Bigfooting all day. I'll admit, y'all, I went Bigfooting. So I'm just now looking back at my information. They had every intention of kidnapping those kids. I just saw that they actually did. Yeah. I said this to Barry. I forgot. Yeah. It said they were going to take them home. So they were. Yeah. They were going to kidnap the children. That was
then I withdraw my comment.
I'm sorry.
I got to tell you, I'm not feeling that. And there's certain reasons for that. No, I'm really not. And I'll tell you why. One reason is, first of all, everything about them had been nonviolent, even after they were attacked. And then when it comes to the subject of children, okay, and children in the contact scenario, so a book I'll throw out, like, you know, we're really familiar with the Zimbabwe children scenario that happened.
Is that the UFO?
Yeah. And then, you know, all like 30 kids saw it.
Yeah.
But and even had communication to a degree. But you know, there's a book written by Preston Dennett. If I hold it up here, it's called Schoolyard UFO Encounters.
Oh.
And he talks about at least, my goodness, there's like 50 experiences here that you never heard about, just like the Zimbabwe thing. And what is it about? And taking that to a step forward, since you're a remote viewer, I find this interesting. All right. Major Ed Dames, I had heard a thing that he talked about years and years ago where they remote viewed the Zimbabwe African children scenario, an incident. And the viewers were seeing these orbs around this group of children. And the children mesmerized by these orbs are moving around them. And that's mostly what they picked up. And, you know, they were wanting to know more. Who was it that made the effort to contact these children to tell them what? Please take care of the planet. And there's a very specific message that came with that. So the amount of experiences that happen with children and at schoolyards themselves makes me wonder if these beings weren't just communicating with the children, interested in them because they're the ones that are more psychically open and able to be communicated with.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not saying that you're wrong exactly, but I just something up front. And when it comes to the scenario of that, it might be something different going on, So
Okay.
food for thought, if
So
nothing else.
no, so that's a great point, Barry. And so and here's another thing. Like I actually did a video on my Patreon this week, and I was telling all my Patreon members, I'm like, I was explaining the data to everyone, and explaining how to read my data on this. And when I got to that part, and it said when I had written down kidnapping children, I told my audience, my Patreon members, I said, this is a thing that I was a little unclear about. Because I could not decipher whether they were planning to kidnap the children or the parents were worried that they were trying to kidnap the children, because they were eyeballing the children. That was very specific. They were curious and watching the children. Okay, so it could go either way with my data. And I actually told my Patreon, I was like, well, I need to get back in there and maybe look at that again. And I didn't have time, so I didn't.
Do you think perhaps they were trying to initiate telepathic contact with him?
Absolutely.
Possibly.
Could be.
Absolutely. How to do it?
Yeah.
Just do food for thought.
Yeah. Well, I do know that the family absolutely stood their ground, so that the men protected everyone in the home. Okay. And they did not, they stood their ground 100%, and did not let anything get near those kids. Okay. They were threatened. The humans were threatened by these beings for good reason. But you're right, Barry. That's why I love bringing you on, because you have so much information about the UFOs and the aliens, the ET life, and all the history behind this. So I love that.
And, it's really a very interesting food for thought in the amount of species that do try to contact children because they are the future also. And we're still so much more open at that point, as children, especially psychically, telepathically. So, I could be, of course, totally wrong, but it's definite food for thought, and something else I'll throw in too is that I picked up and this is as a kid too, that when these beings are in the craft and they come into this solar system, as the beings I've dealt with have told me, and some of them, it took me a long time just to accept what I'm seeing on this craft, are some of these beings are non-physical thought forms.
Yeah.
And when they get into this solar system, the density, and into this atmosphere, some of them start taking on bodies, physical bodies to a degree, density-wise. And I think in this instant, it's something of beings that maybe look like they looked millions of years ago before they evolved beyond the need for physical bodies, which will happen to us one day. It's very much food for thought, because I kept getting a purple soul group with these beings. My understanding of the soul groups are similar to the color spectrum in our science, Roy G. Biv. And your red and orange are your more less experienced souls, while your indigos and violets in the end are the more ones. So, it's food for thought if nothing else. And when they got here, did they take on that type of appearance? And then our cognitive dissonance does the rest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the suits themselves are something that they were using to contain their consciousness. And there could be
like
tons
us.
Humans.
When we die, when these meat suits die, our soul leaves the body, right? And so it's like our consciousness goes. You're not wrong at all, Barry. And I'll say there's things that I've remote viewed personally that was pure human consciousness. Okay, and I'm not going to get into detail about it, but it was pure human consciousness, and I recognized other souls in my soul group that I'm friends with today while I was remote viewing, me being pure consciousness. Okay, too. So
blue soul group. I think you're blue soul group like me.
Yeah. It was really cool. So you're not wrong. You were 100% right on something.
I know, since we're talking about, so I gotta know. I gotta know, guys. Y'all can't leave me in. What group am I in?
Yeah. What color soul group are you in, or is he in, Barry? What do you think?
I don't know. I didn't really do a reading on my friend text there. I'm curious, but naturally, what color is it you've always vibrated to and really had a liking for? It normally starts. So what's that?
Dark blue.
Blue. There you go. There you go.
See, I'm blue, green, and purple. Those are my colors. Always. It's always been green. My birthstone's an emerald, so I'm always been good luck, emeralds, and money. Okay, not that I need money. It's not money, but I'm just saying, all the green, the forest, the trees, the leaves, all that stuff, all the good, wholesome, healthy things are green. Okay,
See,
not the money, Shelby.
my birthstone's aquamarine. I've always been drawn to the water. I've been a scuba diver since I was 14.
Wow.
As a little kid, I was obsessed with Jacques Cousteau and Sea Hunt and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And went on to dive professionally for a while. So it's very water related.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered what that meant.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. The colors have meaning, everybody. Colors always have meaning, and they align with your chakras and all that kind of stuff. So, just think about it. When you wear certain colors, it puts you in a different mood, right? You paint your house a certain color, it puts you in a different mood. Like yellow, it makes you happy. Black is more kind of solemn a little bit. I don't know. Just different colors do different things. Okay, so.
And it's really healthy in terms of therapeutic also, for people that are either getting attachments or have trauma. You can be in a certain colored room and it just does things. So that's I think important, and when dealing with what we just discussed is the amount of non-physical extraterrestrials, interdimensionals that come here that are thought forms. And it is a conscious level, and how space actually, we talked about last time I was on this show, how the black holes operate as similar to brain waves. There's evidence behind that scientifically that they found.
Wow.
So, these are things that take us into that level. And when you're dealing with some of these beings, because when I was on board some of these craft, I couldn't accept that some of these lights I was seeing in these egg-like chambers, I thought they were power sources or something, until they helped me and communicated with me. So there are all sorts of different containers for consciousness: plasma, energized light, charged light. There's all sorts of different containers for consciousness, certain beyond this human form, and when it comes to something like those praying mantises, the big ones like you've encountered, Jessica, because you're a contactee, some of them claim to other experiencers to seed solar systems and to be older than solar systems. So that takes us into the concept of what they call life carriers. What kind of body containers would a life carrier have throughout its cycles of evolving as a soul, as a spirit? Food for thought.
Could be anything. Oh, these.
It could be as simple as a stasis chamber too. For long distance traveling. We don't know. What capabilities they have.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I don't know if Jessica's told you that she remote viewed my lost time event that I had, but evidently
I was a show on it. I think I saw something.
We did the missing time. Yeah, in Brown Springs.
Abducted. I don't know, and I don't think I ever asked her what kind of critters were up there with me. I don't remember. So I don't know.
Yeah, it looked like grays to me, but I have to go back and look at all that data that I have for you. We'll have to look back at it, but there was a variety of stuff. There were other humans up there too.
So would you classify this text as a negative experience or a positive experience overall, after knowing the information she got correlated with what you knew when happened?
It's been a lot to get my head wrapped around. And then we've had new evidence come to light on the show the other day that just it rattled me. I won't lie. And but I don't have any what I would call negative effects from it. If anything, it's helped me, I guess, that because she said they gave me an upgrade or something. I don't know, but I don't know why. Yeah, why they would do that to me, but. If that ties together with the vibes I get when I go out in the field, I would consider it a positive experience. But from what she was telling me, they didn't get old Tex without a fight. So that, I think I was talking to somebody the other day about it, and in my mind, because I've always been like it, I ain't going down without a fight. And I think that's part of what makes me feel better about the whole situation is I did go down fighting, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why. I guess that's kind of weird, but it's I don't think it's had any negative effects on me that I know of. So now that I'm one of those people that's been abducted.
I think it was just shocking you finding out that happened to you. You know, I think that was probably the most traumatic, was just finding out what happened. Yeah.
And, actually, me and you talking beforehand and everything and finding out what happened. Because, I mean, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't always in the back of my mind as a possibility. Mm-hmm. I just tried to convince myself, well, we just lost track of time. Nothing happened, blah, 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 But then, because I was just processing all that stuff, and then we had the second show, and 2 people came forward with evidence that I didn't know existed. Footage from the encounter.
That I had picked up in the remote viewing, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And 2 people had seen it, and I have not. I wasn't aware that that was even on the video. I saw part of the video, but not that part. And it verified everything that she was talking about, just about. So that is what rattled me. I guess because it took me by surprise and I wasn't ready for it. But yeah, it's been a wild ride. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
I mean, any kind of abduction. It's interesting that these goblins, which were actually aliens, it's surprising that they didn't abduct all those people. I didn't pick up that they were abducted at all. Okay. They were just surrounded, which is interesting. I wonder why that is. Seems like with all the alien abductions we have today, it's just kind of like a given that they probably would have all been abducted.
Well, maybe they were, either in distress because the craft was they're having problems, mm-hmm. or it was on Star Trek what they would call an away team. Was it an away team?
Yeah, it could have been a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, I'm not sure, but I definitely did not pick up that these people were abducted, but they were galactic, interplanetary galactic beings. Okay. So that means that they're from a different galaxy, right, Barry?
Yeah, that's what I picked up. I always picked up that they were from the Virgo galaxy, around what we call the Sombrero galaxy. It looks very interesting, that they're somewhere from that area. I don't think the way we understand space is correct, especially after what we're seeing now with the new James Webb telescope. That seeing what they said, just a grain of sand, and they're seeing hundreds of galaxies, thousands in there. So it's supposed to be a spot where there's nothing. But that's what I always picked up, that they were from that area of space around Virgo, Sombrero, and we're dealing with different types of interdimensional travel or whatever mm-hmm. they're using to get here.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And what a fascinating place to observe. If you're from a planet that is Mars-like and you're amphibious, we've got everything around the gamut here, so.
Exactly. Yeah. It was really interesting because I was seeing them. I kept picking up scuttling, and I was calling these little beings scuttlebutts. Okay. That was my nickname for them, scuttlebutts, when I was remote viewing it, because they looked like they were scuttling around. Now, Barry, you and I saw an interesting video that we talk about every time we're together. And that was that video that our friend has of the orbs shooting down, turning into aliens, and the aliens ran around the backyard like something I've never seen before. Now, these little beings were kind of moving like that. They were scuttling around. They didn't look normal, like a normal human or a being. They were humanoid, but they didn't move like a human at all. Okay. Do you remember how those things were moving?
Well, yeah, I do. And I remember hearing too, in that first account that I read, that when they got shot, how they would fall and they would scurry away in a way like what you're talking about. Very bizarre, like even more so. And that's interesting. It makes you wonder if it's different in gravity or something where they're from. You know what I mean? Why that would be. but it's really interesting nonetheless.
Yeah. You guys, we have a lot of comments in the chat tonight. I'm sorry I have not been putting all the comments up tonight, but we'll touch on a few tonight before we go. Yeah, we've got a lot. We've had a great chat tonight. Thank y'all for being here, everybody. Let's see.
I can say something about that.
Let's
the person
talk
that
about
just
it.
said, Tex and I, we talked about this too. We talked about this too, Jessica, that I've done a comparison with Sasquatch and what they call in Europe the Green Man. And that's how Tom Pallett told me that the Sasquatch was connected to trees, that they're symbiotically able to merge with trees and shapeshift into looking like stumps and stuff like that. And I've heard a lot about that now, all the way down to them having the translucent hair that actually makes them look more predator-like what I encountered, that repellent of light. And what I think this individual is talking about is something similar to that,
I've got to tell y'all something. This has nothing to do with aliens, but I was out in the woods today with some of my team and doing some Bigfooting and paranormal research. Okay. And there was a gentleman there that I just met today. And he was telling me about a story that was passed down in his family. It was his great uncle, that there was something that happened with their family and the police came to their house. Okay. And this is down in I'm going to say Louisiana or somewhere like that, or Mississippi. Okay. And he said that the story went that his family said that when the police got there, he took off walking into the backyard. I'm not sure if he was trying to get away from the police or what, but he walked behind a tree, and walking behind the tree, it was his great uncle. And as soon as he passed by the tree, a dog came out the other side, like a wolf, and ran off into the field. And then eventually the dog came back. And as soon as it hit that tree, his uncle came out the other side. Okay. So it had something to do with this tree. It was almost like the tree was something that they think that his uncle turned into a wolf man, basically. Okay. And he was telling me this today. I have no reason not to believe him. Okay. But it had something to do with the tree. Okay. And so Barry, we talk about this a good bit, trees being portals. Okay. I don't know. The story kind of blew my mind enough to where I wanted to talk about it tonight.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because we would think shape-shifting would be regulated to animals, and perhaps it is not, especially when dealing with concepts like that. I think that's really fascinating. And, the true way, to my understanding, that shape-shifting occurs anyway is actually through the dream body. And those individuals that have the ability to put their full cognitive awareness, like we have right now, into the dream body. And then they're starting to, that body doesn't conform to any of the physical parameters this body does.
Wow.
And if you can project your consciousness into something or at something and observe it, you can start becoming that, molding your dream body to that. That's my understanding of shape-shifting.
Is that how skinwalkers work and black magic kind of stuff? I mean, are we touching on that tonight? I mean, is that where we're going?
I've heard that definitely being a part of it, the more spiritual part of it, when you can actually move your perception in that way, but also things that are rituals that can be done to make that more possible, like wearing skins, sacrifices, things of that nature, some that gets a little dark and I stay away from that.
It does. It's very dark.
But
Tex likes it dark though, right, Tex?
Right.
It's right up Texas alley. We like that. Yeah. Dogface Boy, thank you so much for that super chat. You are awesome. We appreciate you so much. Thank you. Yeah, that's very sweet.
Even my personal experience with whatever that was at that ranch, the squirrel that was connected to this Sasquatch activity I was having, that's one of those experiences. I'm not a young guy. So I thought my point in my life to having these experiences, it just stopped my world, was past until something like that happens, and I'm left there thinking, my goodness, the squirrel I just interacted with that was somehow connected to these rock structures, was this some type of a shapeshifter? Things like that will blow you away. I don't care how many paranormal experiences you have, I think.
Yeah. Well, and now we've got the idea that these little goblins could have been shapeshifting. Okay. If like what you were saying, I mean, I didn't pick up on them shape-shifting, but I picked up on them as they were seen. Okay. So I don't know exactly what they were and what their shape was before they landed on Earth. Okay, because I didn't even know to look into that. I was just kind of trying to figure out what happened that night. Yeah,
You put down some words like endorphins and morphine and things like that. And I found that fascinating because at first I freaked out. He said stuff about the children. I was like, oh no, is it like that movie with Dolph Lundgren where the guy comes down, I come in peace, and he's trying to get the endorphins. And that's
oh yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's what it was, but in my mind goes,
Well, there is the thing. Well, that is an issue with a lot of these dogmen that I've remote viewed. They're out for blood, and they are going for that, that thing in the brain that the elites like to drink. You know what I'm talking about? So it has to do with blood, and so I don't know that's a thing apparently.
Hold on. I'm a little out of the loop. So you're telling me you've seen a remote viewing that dogmen were going for that brain chemical you're talking about?
Yes.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't talk about that very often on these shows because that's some of the stuff that I just don't know how to. I don't know how to talk about it, or even if I should. That's why it's in my Patreon, and because it's first of all it'll get us banned off of YouTube. Okay, and so that's why I don't talk about it. And so if anyone wants to see all of my Dogman remote viewing stuff, it's on my Patreon. So there's a link below.
I'm glad it's important. Real quick, just 1 second on that. It's important people understand that. All right, they will ban you on YouTube for like anything. We're like shadow banned and stuff for just talking about knowledge, let alone if you cuss or any of these things or give real concepts, and people say, oh, you're holding off till Patreon and stuff like that. I'm sure you probably got attacked for that. Like
I got attacked last week. I did.
It's like, no, it's not that. It's, man, they will shut your channel down. It's that simple for just saying the wrong word.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
And right now, and it's easy right now, heck, to say something wrong and all of a sudden it's like Big Brother's bothering you or something. What the heck? You know?
Yeah.
Right. Barry, I've got since we kind of brought the whole Dogman thing back up, I've got a couple of renditions of those lemurs that I want to show you.
Oh, let's see it.
This is an artist rendition of a giant lemur.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I've seen that before.
Okay, so I've got another one. Hang on a second.
Wow, I didn't know that was a lemur though. Wow.
Aren't lemurs kind of nice though? They're not like ferocious like hyenas or anything, right?
Now,
it looks kind of nice.
Well, now this one.
Sometimes I think that lemurs are sloths and sloths are lemurs.
Yeah, similar. Lemurs are the ones that have that long tail that's like striped, right? That sticks up in the air. And
the giant lemurs didn't have a tail.
Okay.
Is what they're saying. Now, this is a taxidermist rendition of one.
Oh, Lord. Oh. Well, that looks like a Dogman too, kind of.
Exactly.
Wow.
If they did look like that, they could very well be mistaken identity.
Wow, that's real interesting.
Okay, how fast do lemurs move? Are they quick? I'm thinking of sloth too. For kind of, I don't know why I'm thinking that, but so
lemurs are pretty quick.
They're pretty quick.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I mean, hey, that's food for thought too. So. Something to think about.
I can understand they were a little bigger than human size, about 7 8 feet. So, but I found that real interesting. I mean, they look so close, and then we've got the mentionings of the lemur DNA, and I actually talked to Dr. Meldrum about it, and he was saying it was. The whole lemur DNA was false, blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. And but we were talking about the Sasquatch side of things. He won't really discuss the Dogman side of things. But I don't know. It's like Barry was saying, it's just food for thought. It's just another wrinkle to throw in all this mess that we're trying to get straightened out,
I mean, I don't want to seem completely ignorant here, but I mean, like I said, I thought they all looked kind of similar to sloths, even the ancient giant sloth and lemur. So you just taught me something there. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't even know there were gigantic lemurs ever.
It certainly opens up the whole.
Oh man, you just open up Pandora's box. All right.
Right.
We're back again to what the heck
Square
is
one.
this place? Is this just a genetic laboratory? Because you've got all these things breaking out, and we're finding now in the fossil record and other things. Like I did that video on Homo naledi and Sasquatch, and what really tripped me out is when I saw this guy. What's his name? He's an anthropologist, but he put together with the team how this Homo naledi would walk. And when you see this, it's got these inverse knees that it's walking with. That's a very specific problem, okay, that is rotating knees that is someone coming from the trees would have, that they seem to have overcome the way Patty's walking. And the way this thing is walking is identical to how Patty is walking. I mean, scientifically, you can look right at it and see it. It really blew me away. I did a video on it. It's on my YouTube channel. It's recent, but I mean,
it's a great
stuff
one.
like that. So what is this place? All these different hominids coming up, these different dog people, cannibals, Sasquatch, Genosqua, oh Lord. Ogres.
It's keeping us busy.
And something else that's interesting is lemurs can see infrared.
Really? No kidding.
Yep.
So, Tex, do you feel that that's one of the many reasons that Sasquatch is able to avoid cameras? Can they smell them, see them, and hear them?
Yep. And I don't think they're actually smelling the camera themselves. I think they're smelling us.
Smelling us on the cameras? Yeah, so I've heard.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
humanoid.
You walk through the woods, brother. You leave your scent all over the place, and you can tie that little bandana on your leg that's dipped in coon urine all you want, but it ain't gonna help.
You're still gonna stink.
You're still gonna leave anything you touch. Because I know a lot of hunters. I was one of them that would pack their clothes over, out of hunting season. They pack them in cedar, because that does a good deal to cover your scent. But you're not going to get rid of all of it, especially if you get out there and you're sweating and stuff. You're not going to cover all of it. And you're handling them cameras and everything. They sit in the back of your truck. They sit in your gun case. They pick up. There's a lot of things that people don't think about.
I mean, even my 8-year-old son admitted to me, we got in the car today. We've been bigfooting with my team all day, and he was like, "Mom, I smell horrible." Even a kid, he recognized that we both smelled pretty bad today getting in that car. So,
it's just like you were talking about his red shoes earlier, and we're kind of poking fun at it.
Camo and red shoes.
But that's one of those. I don't worry about freaking camo when I'm going out Bigfoot. What are you going to do? You think you're going to sneak up on one of these critters? That ain't going to happen. Now, don't get me wrong. They're not infallible.
Let me see if I can pull up a picture. But you can't see his shoes. That was my son today. We were out bigfooting, so he's got on his dirt bike knee pads too.
Got the Stone Cold Steve Austin knee pads.
That's cool. Like a little badass walking around in there.
Oh, he was. He had his headlamp on in the middle of the day, y'all. It was. He's learning. He's learning. I'm teaching him.
Hey, I have a question, Tex. You might know the answer to this.
Wait, before the question, wait, Barry, it is way over time, y'all. And so we're going to have to take a break. Can you hold that thought and we'll take a quick break?
Absolutely.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but Randy's going to yell at us. Okay. Write the question down so we don't forget. Is that okay if y'all want to go over after a 5-minute break? Okay, yeah, everybody, please hold tight. We're going to take a 5-minute break for our iHeart and Odyssey radio listeners. Thank y'all for being here. If you want to continue the talk with us, go to the Cryptid Huntress or to Texas Front Porch and or on YouTube and meet us in 5 minutes. We'll be there, okay? And everybody, thank y'all for being here tonight. I hope everybody will join us on the other side of the break, okay? We'll see y'all in 5 minutes. Let's see if I can find the break. Here we go. I'll see you in 5 minutes.
4 minutes to go, folks. 4 minutes. Three minutes. We're almost there. Two-minute warning, guys. 2-minute warning. One minute. 1 minute.
Well, hey, everybody. Thank you all for coming back on the other side of that break to join us again. We still have Barry Littleton here. He's backstage. And let's see. Let me bring Barry. Well, I'll bring him up in just a second. How about that? Yeah. So, Tex, this has gotten very interesting. You know, we started off, this whole show has been about the Kentucky Goblins, the Kelly-Hopkinsville encounter. Okay. And it's gone in a couple of different little directions here because we're talking about ETs, the aliens, the whole the aspect of this place being right next to the Land Between the Lakes, the LBL, and having all the Dogman encounters there and the Sasquatch encounters, and how, you know, this whole area of southwestern Kentucky is an area of high strangeness. Now, I actually had Charlie Raymond from the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization on Spaced Out Radio Sunday night, and I couldn't believe the amount of reports that he has taken. He's taken over 400 reports on his own of Bigfoot and Dogman reports. I mean, he included Dogman in those reports. Okay. And he said there's elements of UFOs. He's seen UFOs out there. With him doing a lot of work with BFRO, they're not real huge on UFOs. Okay. When it comes to BFRO. Okay. From what I understand, I'm not a member of their organization. However, from what I understand, it's pretty cut and dry, like Bigfoot and Bigfoot,
Yeah.
So, not the whole other paranormal aspect. Now,
we've learned that they've edited their encounters. I hate to hear that.
Yeah. Well, well, Barry, you were in the middle of a question, and I so rudely interrupted you because we had to take a break. I apologize.
That's all right.
But what were you saying? Because you had a great point to bring up.
It was just a question, actually, and it's kind of, and I don't want to go too far off from the Goblins, but it was, have either of you encountered that? Does Dogman silence the forest the same way that Sasquatch does? And when I say that in terms of even like something I noticed about them, when those Sasquatch comes around, even the frog stops, the cicadas stop, and the frog stop. Does Dogman generate that same effect, and do you feel it's for the same reason?
Well, actually, any apex predator will trigger that to a certain extent. Okay. Now, I can't report, that when somebody's encountered Dogman, it does go silent. But I think it's for the same reason. It's just an apex predator in the area. We've had it happen to such an extent that we could track. It was some kind of critter or some kind of apex predator around the camp, because we had the silence actually move like a wave in a crowd around the camp. So something was circling the camp, and it was weird because it would go quiet, and then right behind it would go back to normal, and then it would just follow that all the way around the camp. So we had something circling the camp. I'm not going to say it's Bigfoot. I'm not going to say it's Dogman, but it could have been any big apex predator. Mm-hmm. So, and that, I don't think it's anything supernatural with that going on, because they're not the only thing out there that will cause that. Humans will cause that. And like I said, to certain extents, they don't, but to do something like that, to me, I felt like it was probably more like a Bigfoot, possibly a Dogman circling the camp, because we got both out there where we go. So, but then we did find out we have tigers in the area. We found out we have bears in the area. So where do
tigers?
You go? What? Yeah.
Wait, did the tigers get out of someone that had them as pets or something, and they escaped?
What happened was, most people heard about the team. Old boy had the big cat refuge, or whatever you want to call it.
The Tiger King?
Yeah.
So Joe Exotic. I dressed up like him for Halloween. Y'all might see those pictures one day. It was great. That was the best costume I ever wore.
But his outfit got shut down, and he went to prison. Now the first one was located about 40 miles from Brown Springs. Well, the old boy that took it over relocated it within about 2 miles of Brown Springs.
Oh,
and
dangerous.
Then it got shut down. And when they shut him down, they had 17 cats unaccounted for. Now, the tribal police and sheriff's deputies that I encountered one night out there told me that they had sightings. They had reported sightings of tigers and other big cats out there in that area. So that and the pig problem is why they encourage people to carry a sidearm out there. So,
wow.
Yeah. And where's this at?
Brown Springs, Oklahoma.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And see, one of my first encounters out there, I thought for the longest time was a critter. I thought it was a Bigfoot, because I was walking up to the cemetery, and I had a little pin light with me, and I shined in the trees back over my left shoulder, and I caught eye shine about 2 feet off the ground or so. Well, the thing about these eyes, they were about as big around as silver dollars, and they were 8 to 10 inches apart.
Wow.
Now, there ain't nothing out there that I was aware of at the time that had that kind of eye spread. Okay. So it was a horse, maybe a cow. At that point, I didn't know we had bears in the area. I didn't know we had supposed tigers in the area. So I automatically assumed that I was looking at a Bigfoot. And I was fine with that. And it was playing peekaboo behind a tree with me. And I couldn't see, I could just see the silhouette of a head and, the eye shine. That's all I could see. My light was crap. So it was playing peekaboo behind a tree with me. And then it kind of started, it looked like it was kind of turning its head like the light was in its eyes. But, and then, and I've got it on audio. It's on the channel. You can hear me talking about it, and I'm like, okay, this is cool, And then it stood up. And when it hit about 4.5, 5 feet, I said, oh shit, time to go. So I turned around and I walked back out. I didn't run because I don't. And I've said it 1,000 times, not because I'm all brave and shit. It's because I can't. Especially negotiating that hill in that terrain. So I backed out, and when I was going up, the one of the odd things is, now this, like I said, this is before I was aware of anything about tigers. I'm walking up the trail before the eye shine incident. I'm walking up the trail, and you hear me say on audio, oh, well, I just heard a growl over here to my left. That's weird. There's kind of a little purr to it.
Oh. Uh-oh. A little purr.
Yeah. And then fast forward years later, we find out about the possible tigers being in the area.
Wow.
Still to this day, there's probably a population of them there, huh?
Yeah, and that's what's
fascinating.
And I think because these tigers and these big cats were raised around humans. Now this is just a shot in the dark. I'm spitballing here, but I think because they were raised around humans is one reason they don't see us as prey. And I think that's one reason we haven't had attacks out there. Another reason is there's other game so plentiful out there. This is a wildlife refuge. The pig problem is off the chain out there. It's horrible.
Are you talking about wild hogs?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll come up into your camp. We have come close to camp almost every time we go out there.
They're quite dangerous, right?
Huh?
They're quite dangerous, right?
Oh yeah. They will ruin your day. And but you've got the multitude of pigs out there. You've got a lot of deer out there, so they got plenty of food. Brown Springs, the springs itself bubbles up right at the bottom of the cemetery, cool, fresh water. So everything's right there, And I just don't think I don't think they don't see us as prey because they were raised up around us, for part of it. And the other part of it, I think, is because they have food they don't have to worry about. There's not enough of them to even make a dent in that pig population. So
wow, they eat a lot of bacon, huh? Is that what you're saying?
Something that comes to my mind with that, and I guess this counts because it's still pretty much cryptid. Everybody's probably familiar with the change in the chupacabra. How when they first came out in the 90s was being reported, it looked similar to a gray marsupial with spikes on the back. Right. And then all of a sudden, Monster Quest in like 2007 or 8 is doing a thing on the chupacabra, and it looks like a dog.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's that dog everybody's seen in Texas and in other places. And I swear to you, when I look at the dog that they're talking about, and they're showing, to me, it looks an awful lot like a Tasmanian tiger.
And
I've heard something similar
to what me like a coy dog.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looks like.
What's that now? Sorry.
It looks like a coy dog, which is a hybrid.
Tasmanian tiger. Yeah, similar. It's got the way it can stand up on its butt. There's a video of one of them that, like the last one supposed to be there was, but I'd heard about some certain enterprises to keep the Tasmanian tiger alive and how they were releasing them at places, and so they'll show up from time to time. I just find that interesting when you say something like that in the tiger population in Oklahoma, and I don't doubt it at all. That's fascinating to me. It really is.
Yeah, and there's so much area for these. They get back in the thick brush back there. I mean, it's like Bigfoot. They can just meld into it and disappear. There's so much area back there, And when the river's down, they can jump. They can run across the river and go on the Texas side wherever they want. So, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, a tiger's range territory is about 300 square miles, 350 square miles, if I'm not mistaken. Because I'm not being mistaken here too, but I think a cougar's is about 150 square miles. And that's why you don't see them in the area all the time year round. They circulate through that area. In fact, that's what I think Bigfoot is doing. I think they're more of a territorial nomadic animal than they are migratory. So, but I mean, if you land in a sweet spot, why in the hell move?
We have a really interesting comment from Valiant Looney, in the chat tonight. He said he's been looking at lemurs, and they have yellow eyes, just like a lot of reports of dogmen have yellow eyes. He says they can believe that there could be a carnivorous version evolved. Interesting. I find that very interesting. So,
well, honestly, there's if an animal's hungry enough, he's going to eat anything. I mean, there's been deers licking deer carcasses. Chimps they'll eat meat. They'll eat anything. Anything will eat anything if it gets hungry enough.
How about those lions that took out all those railroad people?
Oh yeah.
India, wasn't it? Where was it? Yeah. I mean, they killed, what was it, over 100 people? Something like that?
Oh, wow.
And one of them had a messed up tooth, and they said that's why they thought they were hunting people.
Yeah, because they got the taste for them. But what was weird is they were killing them for sport. They wasn't even really eating them. They were just killing them for sport. And it was a pair working together. That's never been seen before, never been seen since. So that was a very, very one-off deal. But yeah, they did a number on that railroad crew out there. There's a great book about it. It's called Death in the Long Grass. And if you ever get a chance, read it. Val Kilmer did a movie about it. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, but the book is by the guy that actually did, the big game hunter that did it, that took them down. And they have those two lines are stuffed, and they're in the Smithsonian. And they're huge, So.
Wow. Really cool comments. Somebody just said something about Sasquatch killing hogs. Ray Crow, before he had died, he had got a lot of heat. I know he was saying some things about Sasquatch taking huge hogs, the really big ones, and smashing them against trees, and also doing that to horses and cows as well. But especially hogs. I heard that several times, and smashing it away is horrible. Ray Crow took heat because of the gruesome way in which he was saying they were destroying and killing these hogs, the really big ones, and hanging their heads and things like that from trees. It was quite interesting to hear somebody say that. I'd heard that before. So.
Yeah, when I was up in New Mexico, I ran across an old boy that was, he was traveling across the country. My wife's convinced he was a serial killer. But anyway, he was traveling across the country, staying about a week to 10 days in all these state and national parks. And it was kind of hinky. I mean, he had a truck and a camper and a motorcycle, and they all three had different license plates on them from different states. But I ran into him, and I was talking to him. I wasn't wearing wasn't wearing a Bigfoot shirt, nothing like that. Didn't bring up anything. And he told him I was from Texas, and he says, "Do y'all have any owl species down there that is not normal?" I said, "No, not really. Just normal, barred owls, screech owls, hoot owls." And he goes, "Man," he goes, "I was down there and I was staying, and I can't remember. I think it was Caddo State Park or whatever that is down there." And he said, "I kept hearing this owl, but it sounded." He was trying to tell me how it sounded. And He goes, it was just off. He said it almost sounded like it was mentally challenged. And it took everything I had not to break a smile from ear to ear because I knew what he was talking about.
I've heard stuff like that before.
Yeah.
It's something trying to mimic what that animal sounds like. And then it's almost like they know that it sounds so bad. So I've heard them laugh it off at the very end. It's like,
do it on purpose, purposely mess up the call.
Yeah.
Especially
and then
great horn owl calls. That's what happened to me. Yeah. Wow.
Well, what I think it is, I think it's juveniles learning their craft. And I think probably the laughter that that people may have heard, or the adults laughing at them, you know.
Yeah.
But I think that's because I think these adults, I don't think if you don't see it on the spectrograph, I don't think you're going to know the difference when they start mimicking calls. I think they're so damn good at it. But I think what we hear when they're messed up, you know, because you hear about the coyotes that don't sound right, you hear about the owls that don't sound right. I've got recording of a whippoorwill that doesn't sound right at all. And I think it's juveniles just practicing.
Yeah.
And what other best way to practice than to do it on us and see if they can fool us?
Well, see, that's where the situational awareness comes in handy. We have to be aware of our surroundings, what region we're in, what the surrounding area is like. Because when you hear a cow on top of a mountain, it's probably not a real cow, okay? Or even in a swamp, you know. I mean, I know people say there could be cows near a swamp, but inside the middle of a swamp, it's not very common. Okay, so it's important to know your surroundings and what is native to that area as far as wildlife goes.
Right, and you need to learn the difference between you need to understand what a bull when he bellers sounds like. Because I had somebody out in the field with me, and a bull went to bellering because he was, you know, he's a little excited, he was a little turned on, and swore up and down it was a that's a Sasquatch, that's a Sasquatch. No, it's not. That's a damn bull. Trust me, I grew up around the sons of bitches. I know what they sound like. So, but this guy also, he went to tell, and I told him, I said, no, I said, I really don't know. I said, maybe one was just sick or something like that. I just kind of wrote it off, you know, like I didn't know anything. Because I didn't want to scare the shit out of the boy, to be honest with you. And he went on to tell me that he was about a mile and a half up that mountain trail, and it was in Ruidoso, New Mexico is where it was. And this is right on the Apache reservation. They've got a, you know, hunting club out there and everything, that the Smoky Bear National Forest. I mean, you got all that kind of stuff. And he was telling me, well, I found a horse. We had pulled over to see the wild Mustangs. They were down there drinking out of the mountain stream coming off the mountain. And they had some colts with them, which was, you know, just cute as bugs, you know. But he said, I was about a mile and a half or so up the trail yesterday, and I found a horse skeleton. And I found he said, I found a dead horse. And it had a broken leg. I said, well, you know, that's understandable. That's, you know, rough territory. And, you know, these colts, they're just learning to walk, and one, you know, stumble, step, you know, snap his leg. He goes, no. This was a full-grown horse. I said, well, still, you know, a horse steps in a hole, that lower leg, it don't take much to break a horse's lower leg. It really don't, you know, in the right situation. And once they do that, they're dead. So he goes, but this was the femur. I said, do what? He said, yeah, this was the, lack of a better word, the femur of the rear leg. I believe it was the rear leg. That's a big bone to break. That is huge. And I said, maybe he got into it with a bear or a cougar or something and stumbled or whatever. He goes, man, I looked all over that thing. There wasn't a tooth mark one on this thing. And it wasn't scattered. The predators hadn't got to it. He said, there was still some hide left. He goes, there wasn't anything, the skeleton wasn't scattered like you would think, you know? And so I think that was possibly a Sasquatch kill. And, he had his scent on there, and the predators wasn't going to mess with it. I had the same thing happen to me after my dog man encounter. I found a horse skeleton that was pretty much fully intact, So And I was told that was probably a kill site.
Interesting. Yeah, those are big animals. I mean, I was envisioning maybe a rock coming down and falling off the top of a mountain and hitting it or something, but
yeah, I mean that's very possible.
An avalanche or something. I don't know. I mean, the Sasquatches are able to take gigantic big animals and smack them up against trees. I mean, guys on my team have found plenty of dead deer and dogs. I've heard reports of people having their dogs out in the woods on hikes with them, and a Sasquatch will take it right in front of them and smack it up against a tree right in front of the owner.
Yeah, I've heard of ripping them clean in half. I mean, it's they're not worried about being nice about killing something. They're just worried about killing it.
Yeah.
What's their problem with cats? I heard a lot about them and cats.
They like the way they taste. I know.
Wow.
It's terrible. I hear a lot about it. Well, it's like that lizard man of Skateboard Swamp that I did the remote viewing show on. All these people's cars were being destroyed out in where was that? Bishopville. And what it was I think these cats were running from this lizard man, and the lizard man they were going up underneath cars, and so he was attacking those cars, trying to get at those cats. Yeah, a lot of these, I don't know. I don't ever plan to eat a cat. Okay, I love cats, everybody. Y'all know I love cats. So
I don't know. Alf loves cats.
Alf loves, alien life form. Yeah.
Did he eat them?
Yeah,
he's always trying to eat the house cat.
Oh.
He was. People that make these shows, they know something. They got insider information.
I remember one episode he had it stuck between two a hoagie bun.
Yeah, I think that they actually eat them, unfortunately. So it's just an easy. I want to say an easy kill, but honestly, have you ever tried to wrestle with a cat? They're not easy to fight with. I've had my share of scratches. Okay.
They decided to jump on a human. The human's got problem. Just a house cat creates a lot of problems. Yeah,
it does. It does. Well, this has been a very interesting evening, gentlemen. Thank you all for the amazing conversations. I mean, we've gone from the Kentucky Goblins to Dogman to Sasquatch to I don't even know where we've been tonight. It's been all over the world and through the galaxy. So, giant lemurs. That's something. Hey, Barry, we got to look into these lemurs, man.
Definitely.
I'm thinking a Barry Littleton video on YouTube with the giant lemur would be a good thing. Okay.
We've got a pretty good opportunity, both of you actually. If you wanted to look into my encounter, and maybe that'll tell us something. I mean, it was an up close encounter, so.
Yeah, I'll look into it sometime. Now, I can say from the other dogmen that I have remote viewed, they were canine, or one of them or a couple of them were actually a hyena type, and I'm not even sure what a hyena is. I don't even know what kind of DNA that is. Hyenas are not just a regular dog. They're not. I don't even know if they are dogs. Yeah. So, it's weird because there's so many different types. I mean, if there could be a hyena dog man, then there could be a lemur dog man. Okay. I don't know.
Well, same as different types of Sasquatch, different types of dogmen. I keep seeing the dogmen types being revised. They're becoming more and more of them,
Yeah.
And something else I think we didn't touch on maybe is that in some of the data that you showed concerning the Hopkinsville goblins,
yes,
some of the data you had to me seemed to conform to beings that might come from a type of a marsh environment, a type of a swampy type of planet, something like that. So I found that interesting. Another interesting correlation that I don't think we mentioned. So
yeah. Well, you had psychically picked up that they were amphibious, okay, and I picked up they were insectoid. So I'm not sure where there's so much hybridization and so many weird things. I mean, it could be a hybrid of some sort. I mean, I don't know.
It's quite possible. Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen. Sometimes looking at the creature itself, I haven't seen any bugs or insectoids that look quite like that. As much as I have seen amphibious that do also look similar to that.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but like you said, this is something from a different world. So it's all bets could be off of what we think,
I know. I mean, it's what we
just
get in our minds and our heads, and our brains just want to make sense of this stuff. And really, there's no making sense of a lot of this, okay? Because we can't even wrap our heads around some of these things that we're encountering out there. And so who knows? Yeah. Texas front porch. Okay. Who wrote that? Wait, we got Texas front porch sitting right here with us tonight. So
Yeah, I just did that.
Okay. All right.
Hyenas and cats. If you look at Anubis was supposed to be part cat and part dog, right? Technically. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Wow.
Interesting. I don't know. There's a whole lot of chimeras going on out here. Okay. A lot of chimeras. I was watching something with my son today, some show that he was watching for kids. It was a cartoon. It might have actually been his schoolwork. He had a digital learning day today. That's why we went Bigfooting. Okay. As soon as he finished his homework, we went out to the woods. But there was something about chimeras, even in his, second grade work. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is, y'all, but it's being pumped out to the kids, and it's something. There's something to all this.
Well, I mean, you
got for something.
You got Britain that several years ago made it illegal to kill chimeras.
Oh, really?
Fascinating. Fascinating.
Wow. Well, I can say that there, a couple of weeks ago, I did a very uncomfortable target that I wasn't able to reveal all my data on. It had to do with the moon. And there just might be some alien human hybrids up there. Okay. And so it's not only animals, we've got human hybrids. Okay. Human, perhaps alien hybrids going on around here and stuff. So there's a lot of hybridization. And Barry, that's like, to your point, is like, what kind of planet are we living on? There's so much weird stuff. Is this big experiment? Is this a big petri dish for aliens? I mean, what is it?
I put up a while ago, it was this, oh gosh, maybe it was Dixie Cryptid, but it was a story about a Native American gentleman that said that he had seen, he watched an area where the Sasquatch frequented, and they would play there and do various things there. And one day he sees the Sasquatch children playing with what he only described as like a gray hybrid babies. They're playing with him, and the babies were bald, and he described it quite well. It's fascinating to me. So what are we really dealing with here? Or when I hear things like Tom Powell saying that when they went to certain tribe to try to get a look at this alpha male, there was a family that was around this tribe, and the alpha male was 12 feet tall, so they wanted to see him, 10 plus. Wow. And when they get there, the tribe says, well, we've only seen the daughter and the mother. We've not seen the father. And he has this psychic guy with him that goes to some certain area, and he can communicate with Sasquatch. And the woman tells her, well, he went to do work with the green ones. They took him. We don't like the green ones, but he'll be back when he's done with his work. And I asked Tom, I said, well, who the hell are the green ones? And he says, well, he wouldn't say this publicly, but my friend Paul Eddy says it's the reptilians. And I just found that fascinating. When you start thinking about who, with the aid of technology or even physically, could possibly force a Sasquatch to do anything.
That's interesting, because I've never brought this up before, but I had a guest on Space Hot Radio. One of my teammates, Craig Action Jackson, if you guys want to go back and watch that video on Space Hot Radio, he gave away a little bit of our team's information about some remote viewing that we've done. And it was, like I said, I don't ever talk about that, but he talked about, and since he said it, I can talk about it. But he was talking about how one of my teammates had remote viewed Sasquatch in the area that we were researching. And there was one particular Sasquatch, or a couple of them, that would go to what looked like a stump. Okay. It looked like a tree stump, but it actually had a box inside of it, and it was electronic. It was like digital electronics, some kind of power source or something, and it would have to go to that box every so often and hit a button on it. Okay. And then it could go eat or it could do whatever. It was allowed to go do something after it went and hit that box, a button on the box. But it had a certain task. That was a task it had to do before it could move forward and do what else it wanted to do for that day. Okay. And so, yes, it seemed to be alien of some sort of alien technology. And the Sasquatch was, and it wasn't like one of those highly intelligent Sasquatches. It was like, I'm hungry. It's one of those that's constantly looking for food. There are different levels to these Sasquatches. Okay. And this was one of those that's, just wanted to go eat, man. It was like, I just want to eat, man. Let me go hit this button so I can go eat.
Yeah, it sounds like a government control project straight up, and something they're doing. And
Probably.
I mean, it's very fascinating when dealing with these various aspects of these beings and all that they are, and this type of functionality. Sorry,
It's kind of sad, but at the same time, it definitely it makes you think. But it's something that has been viewed. So.
I saw something today, and I posted it. It's on Facebook. I posted it up.
Yeah.
It's this videotape somebody took of with their phone that appears to be a mermaid in this lake Tennessee, a lake in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And of course, things like that can come fake and hoaxes a dime a dozen. And a lot of people didn't like it because, it's in a lake, so that doesn't count. But if you look up really freshwater mermaids, what they said about them. And secondly, she's cussing a lot when she's seeing it. And, and I saw the lady being interviewed. And I'm like, well, what would you really do if you saw it? So, but for somebody in a suit to be out there doing that and the way it looked, I'll tell you, awful good stunt. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
And I think things like that
dangerous, man.
Yeah, stuff like that's just swept under the rug sometimes, and I don't know, food for thought.
I agree with you. I don't know. There's a lot of hoaxers out there too, though, so we got to be careful.
There are tons, and I'm not a CGI expert, so I don't know.
I don't know, me neither.
But it's like sometimes you see something, you go, "Wow," it makes you wonder.
It does. Yeah. There's been a lot of mermaid stuff on the web lately too. So I don't know what to believe.
Well, I think that when you talk about good targets, Lake Vostok, that's a good one, and what they call species 47B, if you're familiar with that.
Okay,
octopus with or that octopus type of creature with I'll tell you what, I've did a video on it. I'll send it to you.
Okay. That sounds fun. I'm trying to switch it all up and get a nice variety. So like tonight we did the Kentucky Goblins. I just want to switch it up and touch on a little bit of every kind of cryptid that we can find. Okay. So we need another aquatic cryptid. That would be great, Barry. So maybe we'll do that next week. Yeah.
Cool. Let's do the video.
Yeah. Well, you guys, I think this has been a great night. I guess let's wrap it up tonight. Okay. Because I know everybody, I got a long weekend ahead of me, and I've been Bigfooting all day. So how about, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. And the Kentucky Goblins, in a nutshell, those were aliens. They were little insectoid. Barry says perhaps they could be amphibious. They could be a hybrid. Who knows? But I did pick up insectoid aliens. And yes, they were eyeballing those children, okay, that were in that house, but they meant no harm. Okay. So it's a very interesting story. We got a new angle on it tonight. And, just the remote viewing aspect, it really shines a light on the story. Okay. So, this has been really fun. Was it Lemur Dogman? Is that a Lemurian Dogman? That sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Lemurian Dogman. Okay. So it's something else to look into. And we got a lot to think about tonight. I'm going to have weird dreams tonight now. But anyways, well, thank you, Tex. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you for your audience. They've been very kind to me. So thank you.
Yes, it's always a lot of fun. So, all right, y'all. Well, everybody, please tune in tomorrow night and Sunday to Spaced Out Radio. I have John Bendeventer from Honubby, Oklahoma. Okay, we're going to talk about the Oklahoma Sasquatch tomorrow night. And then on Sunday night, I have Dennis Carroll coming on to talk about werewolves, like straight up real life modern day werewolves. And it's not just dogmen. We're talking about werewolves. Okay. So it's going to be great. And I appreciate y'all's time. Dennis Carroll. Yeah. It's going to be
said
fun.
David Nunn. Never mind.
No.
Werewolf in London joke.
Oh, no. But yeah, thank everybody. I have to check him out. Yeah. But thank everybody for being here. This has been a lot of fun. And I guess we'll see y'all next week. I don't know what kind of target I'm going to hit on next week, but I can guarantee y'all it's going to be interesting. They always are. Okay. So we will see y'all. I'll see y'all tomorrow night. Y'all have a great night. Okay. Bye, y'all.